Hey, welcome to the Rocket Raygun Awards. Today we are talking about the buzzword known as virtual reality. We are talking about the best VR game of 2019, and we've got a bunch of our own nominations to get into, but you know, we've got a vociferous community out there, and we want to hear from them.
Best VR game of the year, I'm saying Beat Saber. Beat Saber, a fantastic game. Another game that keeps on giving. They keep giving DLC to. It came out at a weird part where I remember playing on VR, PlayStation VR in December of last year, so it didn't count for a lot of lists, but it counted for Game Awards, so I'm throwing it out there. Plus, I've been playing on the Quest, and that just came out this year, so I won't hear any arguments. Beat Saber is the best VR game of this year. Beat Saber is the kind of game you put on somebody's face, and they can't believe what they're playing, and they immediately start having fun. And who doesn't want to wield two lightsabers and listen to dope music?
2019's best virtual reality game is Beat Saber. I'm picking Beat Saber for this year, even though it came out last year, because more people are playing it. Oculus Quest changed the game, and then you add other cheaper hardware on top of that, and there's just a lot more people coming into VR this year and exploring, honestly, last year's incredible crop of games. And Beat Saber's only getting better. There's more modes, and there's a new 360-degree song selection, meaning you can literally spin around in the room, assuming you've cleared your space and you're using something wireless like the Oculus Quest.
I'm a huge fan of VR, and while I don't think it's quite hit its stride just yet, the Oculus Quest has made me fall in love with it all over again, and I'm playing games like Beat Saber, and that is the one I'm choosing for best VR game of 2019, even though there's quite a few that I loved. Beat Saber was the one that had me coming back the most. It's one of those games that you want to just trade the headset off, especially with the Quest being completely untethered, and just let other people try and see what VR has to offer. So Beat Saber, best VR game of 2019.
Best VR game of the year is kind of cheating, but it's Beat Saber on Oculus Quest. I know Beat Saber's been out for a while, but for me, having it on Quest was transformative, and being able to free me up from a smaller space to a larger space where I was able to play with reckless abandon and really get into the rhythm of things. Side, second, and third or fourth places would probably be Vader Immortal. Also played on Quest, but I thought it was a really strong, cool Star Wars story, and it was fun to see Darth Vader come up right next to you, and the sense of presence and place in Vader Immortal I thought was really well done.
Time for one final lesson.
John and I both agree that the most fun we had in the virtual realities was with Blood and Truth for the PlayStation VR. It made us feel much manlier than we really are in real life. We're like John Wick, right?
Yeah, it's basically like living out a Michael Bay or a Guy Ritchie movie, and I only puked 3 times.
My best game of the year and best VR game are the same one. It's Asgard's Wrath. Above any of the games we got this year, this one did it all. You play as a god, as a human. The use of scale is crazy. From towering over entire landscapes to watching giant gods fighting in the background, super visceral combat, some magic thrown in, item hunting, new areas to explore. It has everything you want out of a VR title, and is by far the best game I played this year.
Okay, great suggestions there, everybody. Let's talk about our picks for the best VR games of the year, and then we're going to choose our winner. Asgard's Wrath, Pistol Whip, Stormland, Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown, and Blood and Truth. It's good to see a couple of PlayStation VR titles on there. Now, Ace Combat 7, it's just a sliver of an experience. It's not the full game. It should have been the full game. Even still, it is an amazing jump into a cockpit and trying to grapple with the G-force. You feel, I think I said in my review that I felt like Roger Moore in Moonraker when he was in that simulator thing and his cheeks were rippling because the G-force was just freaking him out. I guess they had a fan on his face. That's how I felt when I was playing the game. It was so crazy. I felt like every spin and roll and dive. I feel like I've got pretty much an iron stomach because I can deal with all that stuff. But when you jump into the cockpits, it's a little different than when you are getting into the sort of motion of walking through a space. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that with some of the other nominees. So Ace Combat 7 is a wonderful VR diversion. Blood and Truth from PlayStation was a very cool, very authentic feeling, cinematic European noir experience. There's a lot of action in this game, but they did something quite clever. I mean, it's really meant for people that are sitting down in their living rooms. I think you can probably stand up and get it right into it if you want to. I played it sitting down, and it's one of those games where you teleport to the different stations, and you're basically targeting the bad guys and pulling off all of the escapades and the missions that you have to do. All kinds of people are chasing at you with machine guns, and they take hostages, and you've got to be smart with where you let the bullets and the grenades fly. So well crafted and so well tuned, and there's lots of great story bits that really get you into the vibe. It's a very, very well made game. Oculus had a bunch of really big titles this year. I think I've said this in a bunch of my reviews for VR games. I'm just really impressed that they not only have cool hardware with the Quest and the Rift S, but they have, spent a lot of money on making some pretty interesting VR titles. Two of them especially blew my mind. Asgard's Wrath is just this epic role-playing experience where you're playing a god and then you're playing a little avatar type sort of human-sized person, and then you're creating really grotesque but very helpful human-animal hybrid characters that follow along with you. You send them off to work. It's like the scariest Pokemon you've ever could imagine in your life, like a giant shark guy that will, bite something that's hanging down and then a bridge will collapse for you. Really, really cool design concepts in this game. I love the idea of the sense of scale and being able to instantly transform into a giant and then pick up little itty-bitty bridges and walls and obstructions and then shrink right back down to the human form and then bypass stuff that had been blocking me before. Really great designs that way. Stormland, developed by Insomniac, and this is just before they got purchased by Sony, so bye-bye Oculus from Insomniac. But this, I think, really lifts on a lot of the best learnings that they had making Ratchet and Clank and all of the crazy weaponry that you get in that game, and all of the awesome mobility that they have been innovating on and implementing through their pretty large library of VR titles. This one is ridiculously fun to just cruise around in, this game. But the game that I'm going to give it to, and it's not an especially large game, but I think it kind of speaks to where we're at with VR gaming right now. This is a game that you put people into and they go, oh, I get it. Yeah, I get why you're so excited about the $400 or $500 investment you have made into virtual reality. Pistol Whip is basically John Wick meets Beat Saber. There's still a rhythm element to it. There's still a funky cruising down a corridor and avoiding obstructions kind of piece to it, but you've got to blast at all of the bad guys that are coming out and ducking out from all kinds of corners, and they might be vertically inclined to shoot down at you or popping out, or they might have armor on them, or they might just appear suddenly, and it gets terrifying because you can become completely surrounded and you run out of bullets. You got to keep, reloading and being smart and strategic with the way that you take out all of the bad guys. You feel like John Wick. And then when you customize and upgrade to a Walther PPK, because you can do that, there's a whole bunch of different weapons that you can unlock in the game, you feel like James Bond. This is a wonderful game, and there are bigger, more, ambitious titles in VR, like Boneworks, for example, which I played, which kind of made me feel a little bit nauseous. But that's one of the elements that is still a problem with VR. Some of these games are just a little too ambitious to bring people to the medium. And I think that's why games like Beat Saber and this year Pistol Whip are so important, because they overcome any of those obstructions or any of those kind of feelings of not being able to be ready for the experience. Anybody could play Pistol Whip and have a good time with it. It is an elegant piece of software, and for my money, it is the best VR game of 2019. Okay, you guys, we have tons of other categories for you to dig into, and you can rip us to shreds with your comments and your feedback, and I'm sure you've got lots of other ideas on who should win in each one of these categories, including this one. But please check them out. Please let us know what you think. Thank you so much for watching this video.